seen how visible and troublesome Portland's homeless problem is. With all the government is doing, why, though, isn't the situation getting much better?
Yeah, can Portland learn from other cities who've had success? Well, Tim Becker went all the way to Salt Lake City, where the number of chronic homeless has been reduced by a whopping 90%.
We're talking about a lot of people.
Portland, Oregon, home to more than 1,000 chronically homeless.
And then there's mental health issues, there's addiction issues.
760 miles east in Salt Lake City.
You know what you can do.
The number of chronically homeless, defined as those on the street for more than a year straight or 4 or more times in the last 3 years, has dropped from nearly 2,000 to less than 180. Generating headlines, praise, and interest from across the country.
So what are they doing differently here in Salt Lake City? Where are they succeeding that Portland is failing?
I think part of it is we just stuck to it. You know, this isn't a sprint, this is a marathon.
Community Services Director Tamara Kohler tells me when Utah rolled out its initiative called Housing First in 2004, city, county, and state agencies all bought in and stayed in.
In some areas they would try it and say, hey, it didn't work. Well, this doesn't work the first time, it doesn't work the second time. You have to perfect it, but you have to be committed to it and keep doing it.
Portland introduced a 10-year plan to end homelessness at the same time as Salt Lake City with a similar goal. But lack of cohesion between agencies created a noticeably different outcome. While camps of cardboard, tents, and tarps are popping up here like mushrooms in a rainforest, it's visibly different in downtown Salt Lake City, where you're hard-pressed to find blatant displays of illegal camping.
Girls, stand up.
This former hotel is now home to more than 200 kids and adults. Once chronically homeless, they now have permanent, desirable, and clean homes, costing 30% of income or up to $50 a month, whichever is greater. Salt Lake City has almost 2,000 beds in places like this.
Salt Lake doesn't have a bigger chunk of money necessarily than Portland. In fact, you probably look at it and Portland has more. But what we had, I think, is a singular commitment from all of the service providers.
Kohler is quick to point out that they are still far from solving the full homeless problem here in Salt Lake City, but she says at least they're headed in the right direction.
We're full here every night. We don't have empty beds in this shelter.
Matt Minkovich,
So what are we going to do about this?
runs the biggest shelter system in Utah, where they have over 500 more beds than Portland. He'll be the first to tell you they still have a homeless issue.
We have the same issues that you have in Portland with respect to heroin usage and street drugs, criminal activity.
But he also says agencies there all agree it is less expensive to house the most vulnerable than leave them on the street, where service costs annually run $30,000 to $50,000 a person.
I think that the people of Portland, the people of Salt Lake City, the people of New York City and LA all value having people off of the streets, all value having the poor's suffering alleviated.
For me, it allows me to be my own self.
24-year-old resident Alex says that humanized and individual outreach is a huge part of what makes Salt Lake's model successful, one that puts attainable housing above all else.
The homeless population needs kind of a human trust and interaction with outreach to actually make some inroads to move them into housing or even into shelter, and really hard when you keep herding them from one area to another.
Which now seems to be Portland's immediate answer to a problem that is begging for long-term effective solutions, like those they've been passionately pursuing in Salt Lake City for more than a decade.
But are we going to day in, day out live up to making those things work?
In Salt Lake City, Tim Becker, KOIN 6 News.